ACST1052 students, this is Shauna and this is your first Excel demonstration. I know that many of you have used Excel before, but I'm going to start from the very most basic principles. You can think of a spreadsheet as being like a giant piece of paper which has been divided up into cells. There are thousands of cells on a spreadsheet. Each cell has its own address. For example, my cursor is now at cell A1, column A, row 1. I can move my cursor to any other cell. There's cell B1, cell C1, cell D1, or I can move it down to cell B2, B3, B4, or I can just move my cursor to the cell that I want and click on that cell. The name box at the top left gives the address of the current location of the cursor. So my cursor is now at cell D4 and that's what's showing in this top box. I'm now going to just focus on the top left column of the spreadsheet and make it a bit bigger for you so it's easier to read. Okay, I can store information into any one of these cells. I can store letters, numbers, words, formulas. Anything I choose to store, I can store. So I'm going to go to cell A1 and just put a label onto this spreadsheet. So all I do is move my cursor to the cell and start typing. So we'll call this ACST1052 spreadsheet demo 1. Now I can put numbers in some of the other cells and then do mathematical operations on those numbers. So let's just put in a few numbers chosen at random. Okay, so I've got a set of numbers. I can now do mathematical calculations on any of the numbers that have been given. So let's suppose that I wanted to find the sum of the number in B3 and the number in B4. I can just go over here and type equal. Equal indicates to Excel that I'm typing in a formula instead of words. So if I type equals B3 plus B4, it will calculate the sum of those two numbers. If I had just typed B3 plus B4, it doesn't know that I'm typing a formula because I didn't start with the equal sign. So it thinks I'm typing a word that includes a few numbers. So if you want it to do calculations, you have to start with the equal sign. So if we put an equal sign at the beginning, we'd be okay. Okay, we can also do subtraction by just putting equals B3 minus B4. That will give us the difference. We can multiply. Equals B3. The asterisk sign is used to indicate multiplication. We can divide. Equals B3 divided by is done using a forward slash, B4. So that gives us 34 divided by 28. We can raise a number to a particular power. So for example, if we wanted to find out the cube of the number in B6, we type equals B6, and the caret, which is the symbol above the 6, is used to mean raised to the power of. So B6 caret 3 means B6 raised to the power of 3, or B6 cubed. If we wanted to find a square root, we could do that by raising to the power. So if we wanted to find the square root of the number in B8, we'd write B8 exponent 0.5. That gives us the square root of 77. Or Excel, an alternative way of doing it is to use the square root function. Excel has some built-in functions that can be used to do common calculations. So you can use equals SQRT, and a little message comes up to tell you that that function returns the square root of a number. Open bracket B8, close bracket, and that gives you the square root of B8. So square root is one of the standard built-in functions. Now we can, of course, type more complicated formula in, and if necessary we might need to use parentheses to group our calculations. So if we wanted the square of B3 plus the cube of B4 times 7, we could type it in as equals B3 exponent 2 plus B4 plus 7 exponent 3. So notice I've used the parentheses which are rounded to do that calculation, to do the grouping. Excel does not like it if you use square brackets or curly brackets. So if I had tried to use square brackets instead of curly brackets, I would just get a cranky error message. The name that you entered is not valid. Similarly, if I tried to use curly brackets, it would complain again. Okay, so stick to using round brackets, round or parentheses, when you're doing your calculations. Okay, so we can do the standard mathematical functions: add, subtract, multiply, divide, and exponentiation. We can also do other types of common calculations using standard Excel functions. I'm going to just get rid of all this stuff here so we can do a few other calculations. So Excel has a lot of built-in functions which can be used to make it more efficient to do calculations. So suppose we wanted the total of all the numbers in that column. In that case we would have to use the sum function. Equals sum. We want the sum of everything starting from B3 going down to B10. So we put in the first, the address of the first cell and the address of the last cell in the column that we want to add up, with a colon in between, sum B3 to B10. Notice that Excel very kindly highlights that group of numbers so that you can make sure that you've put in the correct values. So that gives us the total of everything in that column. So that's the sum function. We might also be interested in finding out the average of that function, so we just type in equals average. Doesn't matter if you use lowercase or uppercase. Once again, Excel tells us exactly what this function will do. Returns the average or arithmetic mean of its arguments. So we want the average of B3 to B10, 56.75. We can find the minimum of that column using the min function. So we type equals min B3 colon B10, and hopefully that will give us the number 27. And we can also find the max. Equals max B3 to B10, and that hopefully will give us 91. Okay, so therefore our four quite useful functions: sum, average, min, and max. The nice thing about Excel is that if we change any one of the numbers in that range from B3 to B10, these calculations on the right hand side will automatically be updated. So if we discover that we actually made a terrible mistake and that number 91 should actually have been 19, and we change that, you can see that as soon as I hit the enter key, all those numbers on the right hand side will change. So the minimum is now 19 and the maximum is now 88, and the sum and average also changed. So this is really good for automating calculations, and in the next demo we'll show you how to automate some useful actuarial type calculations. I think that's enough for this lesson.